1 in 3 women describe their birth as traumatic, and about 6% of women will have post-traumatic stress disorder just from giving birth. There have been inquiries about this crisis. It is a crisis. So when someone says, can you give birth without fear? I get it. It sounds like hocus pocus, because if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. But here's the thing, I'm an obstetrician and I've been in emergency situations as a doctor, but also as a patient. And as a patient specifically, I remember staying really calm. And after that, did research as to how someone can achieve birth without fear. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 things that evidence shows can reduce how you enter your birthing experience to achieve a more positive birth and not be scared by everything that we're hearing around us. I'll also share with you my birth stories about where there were issues around heart rates, inductions, you name it. So you might be hesitant to carry on with this video, but just as a run through, we're going to go through hypnobirthing, faith and spiritual practice, how to trust your body, develop community, and the importance of continuity of care. So hypnobirthing, when I first heard about this, I was also skeptical. But over 10 years ago, there was a presentation that showed that hypnobirthing actually reduced the fear for which women enter the whole labour and delivery process, and had really good evidence that even if they didn't get the birth they were after, that they had way more satisfaction and a way more positive look on their birth than women who hadn't gone through the process. And since then, evidence has continued to back that up. So what hypnobirthing does is a class that teaches you preparedness for delivery, and it's not something I have done, but the evidence is so clear that it is something I recommend to my patients, especially those who seem really confused about what type of delivery to have, feeling anxious about every decision they're going to make. And I think a course like this is really useful because there is evidence that it reduces anxiety, it improves feeling of control, reduces fear as well. And like I said, there's an improved sort of postnatal well-being where women are just more satisfied at the end of their delivery despite how their delivery process went. And there have been a few randomized controlled trials, so high-level research that has shown or suggested that women have lower pain scores, lower fear scores, and higher satisfaction with their birth overall, which is again everything that I'm saying. And if you're still skeptical, I would recommend that you do your own research, speak to people who have done it. And it's not as hocus pocus as you might think it is. It's more of a mental fitness program to prepare you for birth. This one is more personal to me because this is what I've done for both my pregnancies and my deliveries, is engage in a faith practice. So as a Christian, during my pregnancies, I attended a prayer group that was specifically for women who were pregnant. And what we would do is we would meet every other week and we would pray together. We would discuss our fears, discuss our concerns, and it equipped us with words, prayer points to ground us during the pregnancy, during the time of delivery. So I remember with my second pregnancy, I was measuring quite small. So they were saying that the baby was going to be small at 34 weeks. And as an obstetrician, my mind did mental flips and I went to the worst possible conclusion, had a lot of crying, had a scan, and everything was actually okay. But after that, I just remembered the practice of affirming myself, repeating statements that I felt were good and positive, and just trusting that everyone I met in my pregnancy journey was there for my good. And that's something that I would often recite. So when at 38 weeks and a few days, the baby wasn't moving as well, was still measuring small, I went for another scan. And I remember going for that scan knowing that I was going to stay in hospital and have an induction of labour. And during that process as well, the heart rate dropped, I was rushed down the corridor. And even through all of that, I wasn't nervous, I wasn't fearful. And I remember just looking at one of my colleagues and being like, can you just make sure that the theatre is empty? Because that for me was the next step. And no, you don't need to have medical knowledge in order to be calm in situations like that. But if you're trusting that everything is working out for your good, I do think it gives you a level of peace and calmness. And so you don't have to be a Christian to do this. It could be any faith or spiritual practice that you might have. And there's actually evidence that backs this up. So there have been a few reviews that things like prayer, scripture, listening to like positive music or positive audio reduces the stress levels that women will have during labour and delivery, reduces anxiety and fear as well. And another study showed that actually the more spiritually grounded a woman was, the more easy she was to go through labour. So also if you think about the importance of stress on delivery, is when you're stressed and your cortisol levels are high, your body tenses and everything just doesn't allow for the process to go as naturally as possible. So hypnobirthing, faith, prayer allow you to embody a state of calm and being relaxed, which may contribute to your labour going to plan. And like I said, it doesn't need to be faith-based. It could just be affirmations or mantras. I remember seeing a celebrity recently who had a baby, and after her baby was born, she showed the journal of like where she would document every single day that her and her baby will come out of delivery. And I think in an era where, as Black women, often told that you're more likely to die in labour, you're more likely to have the sick baby in labour, what you want to do is you don't want to hear that kind of information, or you want to find a way to know that, but find a way to deal with it so that it doesn't internally affect you and your own journey, that allows you to process goodness for your own journey. And that leads me on to my next point around the community that you keep. So community might look like a prayer group that you meet with every other week, but community might also look like the people and the information you're feeding off of Instagram. If everyone in your social circle had a bad delivery and had a cesarean section, emergency cesarean section, that you embody that and say that's your portion. And that's not true. You can curate the information that you have around the time of pregnancy. You can curate the information that you accept from your community. So I often will see patients that come in and they'll say, oh, everyone in my family's had a cesarean section, therefore I'm going to have one. And I'm like, that's not necessarily true. It's what you accept for yourself that's more likely to come to pass. And at risk of sounding woo, I think that's really important as to how it frames your mindset when you're coming into labour and delivery. And in keeping with that, birth trauma is everywhere. It's actually really hard to avoid, especially if you're pregnant. And when you start looking at baby stuff, the algorithm knows that you're pregnant, and all of a sudden, all you get is birth trauma information. So it's really hard to avoid that, and it's really hard to find the positive birth stories. But it's about going out of your way, curating your feed, curating your real life to make sure that you're hearing good and not bad about the process of labour and delivery. And so moving on, it's about knowing your body, knowing yourself, know thyself. And again, that might sound unreasonable, but because it's modern medicine that has taught us to distrust our bodies. And with my first baby, I went into labour about 3 centimetres. And because I'd worked on the ward, I had no expectations that I would labour without an epidural. Like, as soon as I knew I was pregnant, I was like, definitely gonna have an epidural. I can't labour in pain. And so I had an epidural from about 3 centimetres. And I remember at that point moving slightly slow through the labour process. And my colleagues, people that were more senior than me, were coming up to me being like, Remy, I think you need to have the hormone drip now. Oh, Remy, your heart rate's up. I think we need to do X, Y, and Z. And I stubbornly, and rightly so, insisted that I wouldn't do any of it. And not because I knew better than them, but I knew me better than them. And I knew that there was nothing wrong with me, there was nothing wrong with the baby, there was nothing wrong with my labour process, and I did not need any intervention. And so when I then went on and had a vaginal delivery less than 5 hours later, for me, I was very much like, I felt within myself what was right and what was wrong. And even the story I shared earlier around my second pregnancy, again, because I had been doing the grounding work, I knew within myself when it was time for this baby to come. So when the discussion was happening around an induction, I wasn't fighting it because I had felt within me that actually this baby wasn't doing the things that she was meant to be doing at that time and at that point in the pregnancy. And I think once you do know yourself, like, again, off that third point, curating things that you're taking inside of you, so allow you to find stillness, to find what's comfortable for you, not going down the path that isn't meant for you or meant for somebody else. I think that's also really important and will allow you to overcome the maternity system. So they've got guidelines of, if you're not doing this, you must then do this. And if you don't do this, then... And for you to be able to navigate that, you want to, yes, know the system, but you also want to know yourself so that you know when something's not right and you can flag it repeatedly and persistently till they hear. And if you know that something is right for you, you can ignore what feels like pressure whilst you're going through it. Whereas if you don't know yourself, you then are at risk of becoming the type of patient who says, oh, doctor, make the decision for me. And I can, to the best of my ability, but I will often say to my patients, what does your gut say? Trust your gut. And I think that's a really important message, and that you might not hear a lot from doctors, but that's what I want you to hear from me today. And finally, it's about continuity of care, which might sound like a myth, especially in the UK and under the NHS system. But there's a lot of evidence that if you meet with the same doctor and midwife through the course of your pregnancy, that your outcomes are better, because people can then take things in your context. Whereas oftentimes you're seeing lots of different people. So nowadays in the UK specifically, you're supposed to have a specific group of midwives who look after you and look after you through the course of the pregnancy to allow you have that continuity of care. And if you find that you're not getting that you can also advocate for yourself. If you're in a system that's not in the UK, there is also something to be said for seeing the same group of clinicians throughout your pregnancy and hopefully even at the time of delivery, because that has been shown to have positive outcomes, and advocating for yourself through it. Because again, if you're with people that are familiar, people that you know, it does become easier to relax. It does become easier to do your breathing, to do your affirmations, and to do things that do affect your birth process. And I know this video will sound really weird coming from a doctor, but the point of this channel is to go through pregnancy, birth, and the postpartum period beyond the guidelines, beyond what modern medicine says, because it doesn't always have it right. And if you find you can't get continuity of care with the clinicians, but making sure that you have support for you in the form of a doula, a partner, a sister, someone that allows you to get into that sense of relaxation, that can even sometimes advocate for you in a place that when you're not able to advocate for yourself. And through all that, I want you to come back to the point I'm trying to make, that can you birth without fear? It's probably hard to birth without no fear whatsoever, but you can reduce the amount of fear that you have. And ways that you can do that are about exploring hypnobirthing, being spiritually grounded, curating the information that's around you, creating your community that best serves you, knowing your body, knowing yourself, and advocating for continuity of care, or at least having a support system that allows you to create that sort of continuity of care for yourself. So if you're about to give birth and you're in your third trimester, I really hope that you've gotten something useful from this video. But I've also got a free postpartum guide for you, because once the baby's born, it doesn't stop there, unfortunately. It does carry on. I've created this guide so that you can be aware of any red flag symptoms that might come up and when you need to seek help. If this helped you, subscribe to this channel. I post videos weekly on how you can navigate pregnancy, birth, and beyond. Until next time.